Returning home from a business trip, I saw my wife Xinjing and her male best friend disheveled and lying on the bed. Used items were also in the trash can. Caught red-handed, Xinjing showed no signs of panic. Instead, she lit a cigarette and stared at me impatiently. Last night, Ajia was drugged in a setup. I called someone to help get him out. Nothing happened between us. The innocent have nothing to fear. Believe it or not, I certainly won't stoop so low as to try to prove my innocence. The most important thing between husband and wife is trust. If we don't even have this basic trust, there's no need for us to stay together. Looking at her nonchalant expression, I suddenly smiled. Perhaps she still thought that I would compromise like I had countless times before and continue to cherish and pamper her, just as I had vowed when I was 18. But this time, I simply quietly bought a plane ticket to a foreign country and then said, "All right." Upon hearing my words, Xinjing froze for a moment, a flash of disbelief and slight disgust crossing her beautiful eyes. "You mean, you want to divorce me over this trivial matter? Lynching you, have you lost your mind?" I glanced at her, shoulders bare, and without even a bra, using the blanket to cover her chest. My eyes were as still as dead water. Beside her, her so-called male best friend was also completely naked, his muscular chest brazenly exposed to my view, his bronze-colored arm even resting on her shoulder. From the moment I entered the room until now, a full 5 minutes had passed, and they showed no intention of getting out of bed. Instead, they looked annoyed, as if I had rudely awakened them from a pleasant dream. And what she referred to as this trivial matter was the fact that when I returned home early from a business trip, I found my own wife naked in bed with her male best friend, with glaring evidence left in the trash can. Seeing no reaction from me, Xinjing casually put on a nightgown and got out of bed. She lit a cigarette, sat on the sofa, and stared at me impatiently while exhaling smoke. "Lin Xingyu, I've already explained to you that nothing happened between AJ and me last night. He was drugged in a setup and almost framed into sleeping with another woman. We've been friends for so many years. Did you expect me to just stand by and watch him get trapped? The stuff in the trash wasn't used by him and me. It was used when I found a clean woman to help solve his problem. Last night, I was just too tired and accidentally fell asleep on the bed. You know I have a habit of sleeping naked. Why are you making such a big fuss?" I gave a cold laugh and was about to speak when Yujia, who had somehow already gotten dressed on the bed, very naturally sat down next to Xinjing and lit his own cigarette using hers. As their cigarette tips touched, they appeared intimately close, as if kissing. "AF." Tur exhaling some smoke, he looked at me with a half-smile and said slowly, "Brother Lin, little Jing and I have known each other for so many years. If anything was going to happen between us, it would have happened long ago. How could it be your turn now? Don't be so petty, man. Stop being so suspicious all the time. Instead of doubting little Jing, you should think about why you feel so insecure in front of me." Yu Jia deliberately raised his hand wearing a Patek Philippe watch, giving me a challenging glance. As for Xinjing, when she saw the gift bag I was carrying after rushing back, she just frowned. "An LV bag, don't tell me it's for me? Your monthly salary is only a few tens of thousands, yet you spend over 30,000 on a bag. Are you trying to make life difficult for us? Besides, Ajia has already given me several bags like this. If you buy one, it'll just become a burden for me. Go return it quickly. Use the money to get yourself a suit instead. Look at what you're wearing. You're not poor, but your clothes aren't even as expensive as one pair of Ajia's shoes." Xinjing rambled on for a long time, until she realized she was hungry. Then she pulled Yujia along, excitedly discussing which restaurant to go to. When they left, she was in high spirits and didn't even spare me a glance. The door slammed shut with a bang, and in an instant, the house was left in complete silence. I laughed self-mockingly, took out my phone, and saw a message from a client inviting me to develop my career in the UK. Staring at Xinjing's smiling face in our wedding photo on the bedside table, I felt a pain in my chest and replied, "Okay." Over the years, I've had countless opportunities to develop my career abroad, but I turned them all down for Xinjing. But now, I just want to live for myself once. Because of Xinjing, I don't want this anymore. Lying on the sofa, looking at the carefully decorated house, I seemed to drift back to those first few years when I just met Xinjing. At that time, we were both in our senior year of high school. I was a bookworm who only knew how to study, while Xinjing was the beautiful and outgoing school beauty from a well-off family. No one knew that my secret crush on Xinjing wasn't because of her beautiful looks. It was because when I was targeted by the class bullies and forced to run 1,500 meters, collapsing at the finish line, she didn't mind my sweat-soaked body. Instead, she carried me directly to the infirmary and patiently took care of me all afternoon. I thanked her with a blushing face, but she just smiled and said she was a volunteer, so it was her duty to help. Besides, I couldn't let our top student's brain get fried from running, could I? That afternoon, as she teased me with a light laugh, A gentle breeze brought the pleasant scent of her peach perfume. From that moment, I fell head over heels for her. But I knew. My family background was ordinary, while Xinjing had always been a privileged princess. We were from two different worlds. So even though I liked her, I never had any thoughts of taking things further. Until the day of the early admission exam, just before entering the exam room, I heard the news that Xinjing's family had gone bankrupt and she had been kidnapped by human traffickers. Somehow, I felt completely drained. I abandoned the exam and, using the few clues I had, found the village where she had been taken. I rescued her amidst countless beatings. I had forcibly pulled Xinjing out of hell, but she had nothing left. Except for me. I always knew that her choice to be with me might have been out of gratitude, or perhaps for future considerations. But regardless, on the day she became my girlfriend, I felt a happiness I had never experienced before in my life. When she wanted to go to college, I worked tirelessly to support her studies. When she wanted to start a business, I gave her all my savings as capital. After she became the respected Miss Shun that everyone admired, she naturally reconnected with her former friends, including this male best friend Yujia. I thought my heart was big enough to accommodate all of Xinjing. But after witnessing her crossing boundaries with her male best friend time and time again, my love for her gradually eroded. Until today, when no feelings remain. After that day, I moved out of our home and rented a small apartment near my workplace. In the 2 weeks since, Xinjing only called me once, asking where I had put the stomach medicine. On the phone, her tone was urgent. When I couldn't immediately recall the location, she instinctively cursed. Lin Xingyu, are you pig-brained? You can't even remember where the medicine is. Do you know Jie is in terrible pain? His stomach hurts because he drank on my behalf. If anything happens to him, I won't let you off the hook. Holding the phone, I numbly listened to her impatient accusations, suddenly chuckling self-mockingly. Xinjing, you're so concerned about him after he drank for you just once. But do you remember, those stomach medicines were originally bought for myself, and my stomach was ruined from countless times of drinking on your behalf. But what about you? Let alone buying medicine for me. Even when I was in such pain at midnight that I couldn't get out of bed and asked you to bring me the medicine, you'd get angry. What have I been to you all these years? On the other end of the phone, Xinjing fell silent, but soon she spoke again impatiently. Lin Xingyu, you used to be my boyfriend, now you're my husband. What's wrong with taking drinks for me? Are you, as a grown man, going to watch your woman drink until she gets a gastric hemorrhage? You're never home, and you have the nerve to criticize me? If it weren't for Ajay taking me out to ear me up these past few days, do you know how stifled I would have felt? I know you're bothered by Ajay, but I've explained countless times, he's just my male bestie, a friend. If you want to overthink it, what can I do? The phone was abruptly hung up by an angry Xinjing. I stared at the contact page and, after some thought, changed the contact name from wife to just Xinjing's name. I disappeared for half a month, and she didn't even ask once why I left home, where I was staying, or how I was doing. In her heart, there was only ever her male bestie. I laughed self-mockingly, then glanced at the plane ticket for 2 weeks later and the draft divorce agreement prepared by the lawyer, trying hard to calm my emotions. Just wait a little longer, and I'll be free. How wonderful. After submitting my resignation to the company, despite my boss's repeated attempts to keep me, I still decided to finish the last project before leaving. The place arranged with the client was a well-known karaoke bar. Amidst the dazzling lights and flowing alcohol, I politely declined the advances of pretty girls, sincerely offered a good price, and the client promptly signed the contract. Surrounded by women on both sides, he saw how I avoided the beauties like the plague, not even willing to sit close to them, and laughed, saying I was too honest. I smiled and deliberately changed the subject, drinking heartily with the client. In the past, when doing business, I would occasionally come to places like this, but I never let those women touch me, only because I knew Xinjing didn't like such venues. Back then, if she smelled another woman's perfume on me, she would be upset for days. I couldn't bear to make her feel that way, so later I would rather give up high commissions than come to such places. At that time, I was wholeheartedly devoted to making her happy, wanting to protect her so she would never shed a tear in her lifetime. But later, let's not talk about it. Halfway through drinking, my stomach started aching again. Since the client also needed to use the restroom, I went out with him. Just as we stepped out, I glimpsed through the half-open door of the adjacent private room and suddenly froze. Inside the room, Xinjing, Yujia, and several of their usual friends were gathered, drinking and playing drinking games. Someone egged them on, and a man nearby tore off a piece of paper, stuck it to his lips, and tried to pass it mouth to mouth to the woman next to him. The woman received the paper with her lips and passed it to the man on her other side, like a game of hot potato. I watched as the paper slip was passed to Xinjing by the girl next to her. She hesitated for a moment, but still took it with her mouth, turned around, and looked at Yujia in front of her. Amid the noisy cheering in the private room, she tilted her head slightly upward, getting closer and closer to Yujia. The moment the paper slip on her lips touched Yujia's lips, it slipped off, and they ended up kissing directly. I watched this scene in silence, my eyes red-rimmed, unable to utter a word. Shinjing seemed somewhat surprised after the initial kiss, but Yujia quickly embraced her waist and kissed her deeply. She initially resisted a bit, but gradually, her arms also wrapped around his waist. They kissed unrestrained, the sounds of their intertwining lips and teeth clearly audible even in the noisy private room. I instinctively wanted to leave, but someone sitting near the door suddenly noticed me and blurted out, "Brother-in-law, what are you doing here?" In an instant, the previously lively private room suddenly fell silent. Shinjing and Yujia separated as if electrocuted, looking at me with surprise and shock. I silently turned to leave, but the person who had just called out to me, seemingly wanting to make up for his mistake, hurriedly blocked my way with an apologetic smile. "Brother-in-law, don't misunderstand. We were all just playing a game. There's nothing between Jing and Jia. Forget about those two. I've even kissed Jia before when playing this game. We're all friends, it's no big deal." Looking at his attempt to smooth things over, I sneered. "Then let your wife go kiss you, Jia, and you can be magnanimous about it." Upon hearing my words, that person immediately flared up, his eyes glaring at me angrily. Just as he was about to say something unpleasant, Shunjing suddenly stepped in front of him and looked at me with irritation. "Lin Xingyu, today is a gathering with my friends. We were just playing a little game. Can you stop being such a killjoy?" Even Ajai's fiancé didn't say anything. "Why are you making such a fuss? Is your tolerance even less than a woman's? I've said before, trust is the most important thing between husband and wife. You never trust me. Do you know how disheartened that makes me feel?" Seeing Shunjing's questioning look, I gave a bitter smile. Just as I was about to speak, Yujia suddenly spoke up. "Brother Lin, we all came here to have some fun. Why did you come alone?" As he spoke, he looked at the client behind me who was still holding a woman and watching the show, and said with ill intent, "How come? Even your buddy is holding a woman, so you think you're innocent? You clearly came here to have fun yourself, betraying Xiao Jing, and now you're acting like you're catching someone in the act. Don't you find that laughable?" Hearing his words, everyone in the private room looked at me with disdain and contempt. That's right, everyone knows what men come to places like this for. How can he have the nerve? At least we came as a group of friends. But him? Humph. Poor Jing Jing, marrying such a man. He's a dirty hypocrite himself, yet always accusing others. Disgusting. As the murmurs of discussion rose and fell, S.H. Jing's face grew darker and darker. "Lin Xingyu, so you've always suspected me of cheating because you were guilty yourself? So all your self-righteous behavior before was to gaslight and emotionally abuse me, hoping I'd be the one to ask for a divorce. We've been married for so many years. How can you be so revolting?" Seeing the look of disgust in her eyes as if she was looking at trash, I suddenly smiled. "Shinjing, let's get a divorce." In an instant, all the gossiping voices fell silent. Shinjing's face froze, and she instinctively questioned, "What did you say?" My eyes showed neither joy nor sorrow, and my tone was as calm as still water. I said, "Divorce." That day after leaving the KTV, contrary to her usual behavior, Shinjing called me many times. I didn't answer any of them, only sending a text message telling her we'd meet at home on Friday night. On Friday, after completing my resignation procedures, I prepared the divorce agreement and other documents, carrying the thick file back to that familiar yet strange home. Entering and turning on the lights, to my surprise, Shinjing was sitting alone on the sofa, her gaze towards me calm, yet seemingly concealing many undercurrents. I wanted to speak, but my eyes suddenly fell on the photo in the middle of the living room. Once, our wedding photo hung there, but now hanging was a photo of her and Yujia from their 18th birthday coming-of-age ceremony. In the photo, a young Yujia wore a crisp suit, standing next to her in a white dress, looking very much like a young couple taking wedding photos. This dress was a limited edition that I bought after working day and night for 2 months. I thought she would take a photo with me after wearing the dress, so I even got my hair done specially. But I didn't see her at all that entire day. It turns out she went to see Yujia. I smiled self-mockingly, but Shinjing suddenly spoke. "I accidentally tore the wedding photo, and it didn't look good leaving this space empty, so I replaced it with this picture." She sighed, unusually calm, and even took the initiative to walk up to me. "Xingyu, I admit, I did have some feelings for Yujia, but I never forgot that when I was at my lowest point, it was you who helped me, not Yujia. So after all these years, besides considering him a friend, I really don't have any other feelings for him. I don't understand why you're so bothered by him. But Xingyu, you've been upset about this for so long now. Haven't you had enough? I know you were just speaking in anger last time when you mentioned divorce, so I won't hold it against you. Why don't you move back in tomorrow, and we can live our lives properly together? Wouldn't that be good?" I stared at Shinjing's sincere face, and the tightly wound string in my heart suddenly began to loosen. Even though I had done countless self-affirmations, seeing her tired yet genuine expression, I shamefully felt my heart soften. But just as I was about to speak, a sudden sharp pain shot through my stomach, causing me to collapse to the ground, unable to even stand. Xinjing was visibly startled. She quickly crouched down to support me, asking anxiously, "Xingyu, what's wrong? Is it your stomach acting up again? I'll take you to the hospital." She helped me into the car. As I clutched my stomach, enduring the intense pain, I saw Xinjing looking both worried and helpless throughout the journey, which completely melted my heart. After all, she had been my only thought for so many years. If she had just been momentarily confused and could return to the right path, I didn't want to truly give up on this hard-earned relationship. While waiting at a red light, I instinctively wanted to wipe away the tears that formed in the corners of her eyes. But before my hand could touch her face, her phone suddenly rang. Seeing the name, Yujie, on the screen, she didn't hesitate and immediately opened my hand to answer the call. I was stunned, and the next second, Yujie's friend's anxious voice clearly sounded through the phone. "Jing, come quickly. Ajie's been in a car accident and is bleeding a lot. No matter how we call him, he's not responding. We don't know what to do. Please come quickly. You might still be able to see him one last time." Hearing his words, Xinjing's eyes instantly turned red, as if all reason in her mind had been completely destroyed. The next second, as the red light ended, Xinjing immediately turned the car around, driving against traffic towards the direction Yujie's friend had mentioned. But that direction was clearly away from the hospital. I bit my lip, disregarding the pain in my stomach, and said with difficulty, "Xinjing, be rational. How many times have they tricked you with this kind of ploy? When has Yojie ever really been in trouble?" Moreover, when the call ended, I clearly heard Yojie's faintly suppressed laughter. But Xinjing couldn't hear anything. She just kept driving frantically, her body trembling nonstop, already in tears. In that instant, everything became clear to me. "Stop the car. Let me out." Fighting the pain that was almost consuming my rationality, I spoke to her in a commanding tone for the first time. Xinjing didn't hold back either. She immediately pulled over to the side of the road and glared at me fiercely. "Lin Xingyu, you're throwing a tantrum at a time like this? Do you have any conscience left? You're just in a bit of pain, but Ajay is in mortal danger. Don't you understand he's about to die?" I had no strength left to say anything. I just got out of the car. The moment the car door closed, the vehicle shot off into the distance like lightning, without a moment's hesitation. As I stared at the gradually disappearing car, a bitter smile spread across my lips, and my consciousness began to blur. Finally, overwhelmed by the excruciating pain, I could no longer resist and collapsed. When I slowly regained consciousness, in my daze, I thought I heard Xinjing's crying. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't deceived me, how could I have left him on the road and rushed over? If anything happens to Xingyu, I'll cut ties with all of you." I struggled to open my eyes, only to see Yujie holding Xinjing in his arms by the hospital bed, comforting her carelessly yet patiently, as if soothing a child. "Jingjing, it was all Akai and the others' idea. It had nothing to do with me. I didn't know Lin Xingyu's stomach condition would suddenly become so severe. Don't cry anymore. Look, your eye makeup is all smudged. You look like a panda now." Xinjing smiled at his joke, turning her head, and suddenly realized that I was already awake, staring intently at them. Star, you, how are you feeling?" She quickly pulled away from Yujie's embrace, instinctively wanting to reach for my hand, but I immediately avoided it. The old man lying in the adjacent bed suddenly spoke up languidly. How else could the young man be? The doctor said it was acute gastric bleeding. If he had been brought in any later, he might not have made it. Hearing the old man's words, Xinjing's face reddened, and she looked at me somewhat ashamed, saying, "Star you, I'm sorry, But I just said coldly, "It's fine. After all, he's your male bestie. Even if I were dying, you'd still have to go meet him. I understand completely." Hearing my words, Xinjing's previous shame vanished without a trace, replaced by that all-too-familiar irritation I knew so well. "Enough, Lin Xingyu. Do you have to speak so unpleasantly? I've already said this was just a misunderstanding. Do you really need to keep dwelling on it? The doctor said you're out of danger, and I've already apologized to you. Are you going to keep harping on about this?" Just as I was about to speak, Yujie suddenly grabbed Xinjing's arm, putting on a pitiful expression. "All right, Jing. Brother Lin only said that because he was angry for a moment. Don't blame him. Brother Lin, this was my fault. I'll apologize on Jing's behalf to those friends, and I can compensate you if you want. But Jing was only in a hurry because she was worried about you. Don't blame her." Seeing Yujie's insincere smile, I instinctively frowned, wishing I could just kick him out immediately. Xinjing naturally noticed this disgust. She let out a cold laugh, directly grabbed Yujie's hand, shot me a fierce glare, and then gently comforted him. "Ajie, why are you apologizing to him? Do you think he'd accept your goodwill? Now he's older adult taking advantage of his illness to give me the cold shoulder everywhere. He's nothing like the gentle and tolerant man he was when we first got married. Indeed, the essay, in that men change after marriage isn't false. After all, isn't it because he thinks that after so many years of marriage, he can manipulate me at will, that he's acting this way? But he seems to have forgotten that even though my family once went bankrupt, I am still the one and only Miss Shun. I, Shin Jing, will never be manipulated by any man. After throwing down such a bold declaration, Shin Jing simply pulled Yujie away, leaving without giving me another glance. As I sat on the bed, staring at her confident departing figure, a bitter smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Shin Jing, if you knew that we would soon be separated by 10,000 miles, unlikely to meet again in this lifetime, would you still be so cold-hearted? During my hospital stay, Shin Jing kindly found a caregiver for me, but she herself never once came to visit me. Instead, her social media was filled with pictures of her and Yujie traveling leisurely everywhere. I didn't mind most of it, but when I came across a picture of her and Yujie embracing in front of the Berlin Wall, I couldn't help but tear up. Along with the picture, she posted, "The day the Berlin Wall fell was also the day you were born. How can the memories we made here together not be special?" Staring at her radiant smile in the photo, I vaguely remembered how, before my birthday last year, I had cautiously mentioned wanting to go to Berlin with her to see the fallen Berlin Wall. At that time, she was sitting casually on the sofa, replying to Yujie's messages while perfunctorily dealing with me. But on my birthday, I waited for her at the airport, only to receive a message that she had to celebrate Yujie's birthday instead. Another year, and she had forgotten my birthday again. But she would never forget Yujie, even though my birthday and his were on the same day, so easy to remember. Turning off my phone, in a daze, I felt a wetness on my face. It wasn't until Jojo, the granddaughter of the old man in the nearby hospital bed, couldn't bear to watch anymore and handed me a tissue that I realized I had been crying. After composing myself, I looked up to see Jojo looking at me sympathetically, tentatively speaking. "Big brother, who is the sister in the photo to you? Why are you so sad when you look at her?" I forced a relaxed smile and said gently, "She's no one. Now, I suppose we're strangers." Jojo let out an, "Oh," and said nothing more. I smiled calmly, swallowing the heartache in my chest. To say the heart won't ache anymore is a lie. How could someone who has truly loved let go so easily? But all I can do now is cut out the part of my heart that still has feelings for her. Because an empty heart is better than one that hurts even more after already being in pain. During my hospital stay, perhaps sensing my mood was off, the elderly man in the neighboring bed not only often chatted with him, but also deliberately had his young granddaughter Jojo try to make me laugh. Jojo was only 16 or 17, still in her second year of high school, but when she heard her grandfather was ill, she not only came every day to bring him food, but also stayed overnight in the hospital room to keep him company. Seeing the harmonious relationship between grandfather and granddaughter, I felt a warmth in my heart, but remembering my own early loss of family, I couldn't help feeling lonely. Perhaps it was because I considered Xinjing my only family that I invested all my emotions in her. After realizing this, I became more at peace, and the days became less unbearable. The day before my discharge, the lawyer brought the revised divorce agreement, and I contacted Xinjing after a long while, asking her to come to the hospital. After not seeing her for a week, she wasn't as triumphant as I had imagined, but instead seemed more tired. As for me, I had lost my previous irritability and sharpness, and instead gained a sense of calmness. I even calmly poured her a cup of hot tea. Xinjing took the teacup from my hand with some surprise, unconsciously saying a soft, "Thank you." I responded with a followed by a silence where we looked at each other without words. In the end, she was the one who spoke first. "Why didn't you like my posts on WeChat Moments? You used to like every single one of them before." I looked up and saw that she wasn't impatient or sarcastic like before. Instead, her gaze towards me had a hint of eagerness. What was she hoping for? I said calmly. "The doctor told me to use my phone less. During this time, except for work messages, I haven't opened WeChat." Xinjing made an "oh" sound, then said, "I went traveling with Ajay and the others. We went to Japan, Iceland, and also visited London and Berlin." I patiently listened to her talk about her experiences along the journey, sometimes even interjecting a comment or two, but my tone and attitude remained calm and gentle throughout. But Xinjing seemed unsatisfied with my attitude. As she spoke towards the end, her tone inevitably became agitated. "Lin Xingyu." She stared into my eyes and said word by word, "When we were in Italy, Ajay lost the room key and had to share a room with me." I made an sound, gesturing for her to continue. But Xinjing suddenly lost control, no longer able to contain her displeasure, and stood up abruptly. "Did you not hear what I said? I said I slept in the same room as Yujie. Didn't you used to mind him the most? Why do you have no reaction at all when I mention him now? Lin Xingyu, what's wrong with you? Looking at her angry and aggrieved expression, with her eyes welling up, I suddenly found it somewhat amusing. In the past, when I cared, she thought I was overthinking and constantly suspicious, like a madman. Now that I don't care, she's not satisfied. I can't quite figure her out anymore. However, causing a scene in the hospital room wasn't exactly a dignified thing to do. I sighed, and just as I was about to comfort her, Jojo suddenly entered the room with a cheerful smile, carrying a thermos in her hand. Big brother, my mom made some pork trotter soup. Didn't you tell Grandpa last time that you wanted to drink some? So I brought a little for you too. Jojo's grandfather had been discharged a couple of days ago, but he and Jojo still came to visit me from time to time, which made me feel very touched. Seeing Shun Jing sitting by my bed in the hospital room, Jojo was taken aback. Before she could say anything, Shun Jing suddenly snatched the thermos from her hand with a cold expression and threw it to the ground. The lid of the thermos immediately popped open upon impact, spilling the fragrant pork and shiitake mushrooms all over the floor in a mess. Jojo's eyes instantly welled up with tears, but Shun Jing paid no attention to the fact that her outburst had frightened an innocent person. Instead, she stared at me with a sardonic smile. I was wondering why you suddenly stopped caring about Ajay. Turns out you found yourself a new flame. Such a young girl, probably not even fully developed yet. Can she really satisfy you? She looks like she might be underage. TSK, how could you stoop so low? Lin Xingyu, are you some kind of pervert? And this girl, so young yet already misbehaving, only knowing how to seduce men, acting like a little vix. Slap. I could no longer contain myself. I got up from the hospital bed and slapped Shun Jing across the face, furious beyond words. Shut your mouth. Do you think everyone is as filthy-minded as you? Xiao Xiao is the granddaughter of the elderly patient next door. She's only 16 and still in high school. She's just here to visit me on behalf of her grandfather. There's nothing between us. You will apologize to Xiao Xiao right now, or don't blame me for being unkind. Shun Jing's hair was disheveled as she held her face in disbelief, glaring at me several times with a mix of resentment and grievance. Lin Xingyu, you've never hit me before, but now you actually hit me for someone else. She pushed me hard, feeling hurt, then ran out of the hospital room crying. In the past, I would have definitely chased after her immediately. But now, I just calmly apologized to Xiao Xiao, cleaned up the mess with her, and then ate quietly. Only this time, I didn't have her sign the divorce papers. What a pity. The day after I was discharged, I called Shun Jing again. With my departure abroad approaching, I didn't want to delay any longer, no matter what. After the call connected, Shun Jing seemed drunk and kept mumbling. Why does love always end in betrayal? Things used to be so good. Why has everything changed now? Just as I was about to speak, Yu Jie's husky voice suddenly came through from the other end. It's okay, Jing Jing. No matter what happens, I'll always be by your side. Love may change in an instant, but friendship lasts forever. Tonight, don't hold back. Just let it all out, okay? Soon, clear kissing sounds could be heard from the other end of the phone, followed by the sound of clothes falling and bodies intertwining. I held the phone like this, listening for 10 minutes, until they finished, and only then did I hang up completely. Opening the call recording, I stared at the evidence I had just retained while strongly suppressing my nausea, and suddenly smiled with relief. All along, I had been waiting for an opportunity like this, a chance to completely rid myself of her. Before, I thought that when this moment came, I would still feel heartbroken, but now, I just smiled, as if I had only listened to a recording that had nothing to do with me. I even felt relieved that I now had another piece of evidence in my hands. How ironic. In the evening, Shun Jing suddenly called. After some thought, I still answered. Her voice was a bit hoarse, unable to hide her guilt. Did you call me this afternoon? I made an sound, and Shun Jing suddenly fell silent. After a long while, she finally said, Can you come home tonight? Let's have a good talk. What else is there to talk about besides divorce? I thought to myself, but didn't say it out loud, just calmly agreed. Xingyu. Before hanging up, Shun Jing suddenly called my name. My finger hovered over the end call button as I waited to hear what she had to say. It seemed like a minute passed, or perhaps 10 minutes. But in the end, she said nothing. After hanging up, I watched the happy couples and spouses in the bustling street, feeling a wave of melancholy. With our marriage in this state, who could we blame? The sea of bitterness has no bounds. Turning back is the shore. I wanted to turn back, but Shun Jing seemed to be lingering. It's also ironic. As I opened the door with the divorce papers in hand, I suddenly smelled an unfamiliar aroma of food. Entering the house, I saw Shun Jing, unlike her usual self with flashy, alluring makeup and bold, sophisticated or sleek outfits, instead barefaced and wearing ordinary loungewear. Seeing me, she smiled faintly and said, You're home. Let's eat first. I made your favorite sweet and sour fish. Come try it. I wanted to tell her I'm allergic to fish and can't eat it, that it's Yojia who likes fish. But thinking about it, I've told her so many times over the years and she's never remembered. So what's the point? Seeing me standing still, Shinjing sighed, put down her food, and simply walked up to me, suddenly hugging me. I instinctively wanted to break free, but she just held on tighter, refusing to let go. Xingyu, I know we've both been unhappy lately, but we've been married for so many years. What couple doesn't go through a 7-year itch? I know you're upset about Yojia. I've deleted all his contact information. From now on, I won't contact him without your permission, okay? Since I was 18, I've known that you're the only one I could marry. I've never had feelings for any other man, which is why I got so angry when you doubted me. Now that we've been arguing for so long, there's really no need to continue. Can we just live peacefully together from now on? My heart stirred slightly, but remembering the almost identical words she had said last time, I suddenly felt incredibly cynical. Just as I was about to speak, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, and an unfamiliar man's anxious voice came through from the other end. Lin Xingyu, did you make Jingjing block Ajay? Do you know that Ajay is now drunk and threatening to jump off a building? You need to get Jingjing here quickly. She's the only one who can save Ajay. I let the call play on speaker, watching Shinjing trying hard to suppress her emotions, yet still clearly worried. I suddenly smiled. Go ahead. I patted her shoulder reassuringly and said calmly. After all, it's a life at stake. It would be unlucky if he died. Shinjing struggled to suppress her urge to rush out, forcing a casual smile at me. It's fine. They just like to play these kinds of tricks. I've seen it many times before. Rather than playing along with their games, I prefer to stay with you. She tried to hold my hand, but I gently avoided it. A moment later, that number sent another picture. Sure enough, Yu Jia was swaying on the 18th floor rooftop, looking drunk and as if he could fall at any moment. The instant she saw the photo, Shunjing's suppressed emotions suddenly erupted. She unconsciously let go of her embrace and turned to leave, but the next moment, she turned back to me, her gaze earnest. I understood her longing, but I just took out some documents and said gently, It's okay. I'll wait for you to come back. But there's a company document here that needs your signature. Sign it before you go. Shinjing immediately took the pen and signed her name on both documents without even looking, then planted a kiss on my cheek, saying with a smile, Wait for me to come back. I stared at her retreating figure and suddenly smiled. If she knew this would be the last time we'd see each other, would she have left so quickly? Unfortunately, I'll never know the answer to that. After packing up everything, I left the divorce agreement she had signed on the table and went straight to the airport. While waiting for my flight, I stared at the bustling crowd and suddenly felt a wave of loneliness. As I was lost in thought, my phone suddenly rang. It was Shinjing. Seeing that there was still some time before boarding, I thought for a moment and decided to answer the call. Surprisingly, Shinjing wasn't yelling or furious. Instead, her voice was filled with endless urgency and a hint of grievance. Where did you go? Why are all your things gone? Xingyu, are you still angry with me? I can apologize. I can kneel down and beg for your forgiveness. Xingyu, I won't see Yuji anymore. I really won't. Please, come back. Don't divorce me, okay? I knew she had seen the divorce agreement, but I just laughed coldly and said calmly, There's a tape recorder next to the divorce agreement. You can listen to what's on it. In an instant, Shun Jing fell silent, a silence she had never exhibited before. You know everything. Her tone was desperate and remorseful, as if someone had a death grip on her lifeline, leaving no possibility for redemption. I'm sorry, Xingyu, I'm truly sorry. But I didn't mean to. I was drunk. You can hit me, yell at me, anything. I'm begging you, please don't divorce me, okay? I'm sorry. My voice had never been so cold and hard towards her. No. The next moment, I hung up the phone amidst her despairing cries, removed the SIM card, and calmly boarded the plane. As the plane took off, I stared at the gradually receding ground, my mind filled with countless thoughts. All that came before is as if dead yesterday. I could finally, truly live for myself. After landing in England, I quickly started my new job. With my solid professional skills, I was promoted to a managerial position in just 2 or 3 years, doubling my income. I even partnered with a Chinese-British friend to start our own company. In my 5th year in the UK, to expand our business, my friend and I returned to China together. Amidst the clinking of glasses at the cocktail party, I thought I glimpsed a familiar face. 5 years had passed, and Shun Jing no longer had the appearance of the confident career woman she once was. Instead, she had become merely a decorative companion at Yujia's side. Even when Yujia's clients tried to take advantage of her, she could only try to avoid it. And when that failed, she endured it silently, without a trace of her former readiness to flare up in anger. Upon seeing me, she was startled at first, then delighted, but after glancing at Yujia beside her, her eyes dimmed. Over these 5 years, I had heard bits and pieces of news about her. After the divorce, She went through a period of living like a lost soul. The company she had worked so hard to establish was opportunistically swallowed up by Yujia. To maintain her lifestyle, she reluctantly married Yujia, but it was clear that she had not been happy in these years. As the party was ending and I was about to leave, I reached the door when Shunjing suddenly appeared and blocked my way. Xingyu, can we talk for a bit? Seeing the suppressed longing and joy in her eyes, along with a hint of melancholy, I felt a twinge in my heart and allowed her to speak her mind. After you left, for a long time, I didn't know how I managed to get through it all. It was then that I realized I had always loved you deeply. The things I did before were just to make you jealous, to prove that you cared about me. Later, when I married Yujia, I actually hoped you would show up at the wedding. But you didn't. Looking back, many things were my fault. Unfortunately, I realized it too late. But if you're willing, seeing a glimmer of hope rising in her eyes, I decisively extinguished her fantasy. I'm sorry, I'm not willing. In an instant, despair filled her eyes once again. She smiled bitterly and said softly, as it should be, this is my retribution. After saying that, she turned and left, seemingly not wanting me to see her distressed expression, and she didn't look back even once. In a daze, I recalled that afternoon in the infirmary. The gentle breeze, the fresh peach-like scent of laundry detergent, and the pure concern in the girl's clear eyes, and the feelings that quietly arose within me in the sweltering summer heat. Perhaps if Xinjing hadn't done those things later, we would have remained happily together. But the bubbles of romance were forcefully popped one after another, and finally, my fantasy came